Welcome back to Klepper's Corner, Today in History. It's February 7th, a date that has seen enough political intrigue, natural disasters, scientific breakthroughs, and screaming teenagers to make even today's news cycle say, whoa, calm down. So buckle up, because this day has receipts. Segment 1, empires, crowns, and people who definitely had poor workplace communication. Let's start in 457 AD, when Leo I becomes emperor of the Eastern Roman Empire. But here's the plot twist. He's crowned not by soldiers, but by the Patriarch of Constantinople. Imagine showing up for your first day of work, and instead of HR handing you a badge, a religious leader says, God approves of your promotion. That's February 7th for you. This is the moment the empire basically says, let's merge church and state. It'll be fine. Spoiler alert, it was not fine. Fast forward to 987, when two Byzantine generals decide the best way to disagree with their boss is to start a full rebellion. One of them even has the same name twice, Bardas Phocas. If you have the same first and last name, rebellion is your only career path. This civil war ultimately forces Emperor Basil II to call up Vladimir of Kiev for backup, which leads to the Christianization of the entire Kievan Rus. That's right, February 7th is responsible for an entire religious tradition because two guys named Bardas thought they deserved a bigger office. And then we get to 1285, when a synod condemns a former patriarch for trying to mend relations between the Eastern and Western churches. The East-West relationship status on Facebook that day, it's complicated. And speaking of complicated, in 1301, Edward I decides his son should become Prince of Wales, which is basically the medieval version of a political rebrand. England looked at Wales, said new management, and slapped a label on it. Congratulations, you're now part of the logo. Segment 2, births, death warrants, and extremely awkward family politics. Jump to 1478. Thomas More is born. The man who would grow up to write utopia, challenge a king, and eventually lose his head over it. Honestly, that's quite a resume. Imagine being so committed to your principles that your neck becomes a historical cautionary tale. Then, in 1587, Mary, Queen of Scots, learns on February 7th that she will be executed the next morning. Talk about the worst possible version of, hey, do you have a minute? Instead of panicking, Mary spends her final day writing a letter framing her death as martyrdom. That's the kind of composure you only see in royalty and customer service employees on their last day. And in 1778, the American Revolution gets the French alliance. It's the moment Britain realizes the fight isn't a family squabble anymore. France just showed up like the dramatic friend in every reality TV show saying, "Who we mad at?" The next morning, the whole world is involved. Segment 3, earthquakes, novels, science, and Baltimore literally on fire. In 1812, a massive earthquake hits the central U.S. so hard the Mississippi River literally reverses direction. The river just says, nope, going back. Imagine living there at the time. You'd assume the world was ending or that somebody upstream just installed a giant pump. Also in 1812, Charles Dickens is born. Yes, on the same day the earth tries to fold in half. Dickens spends his career writing about the chaotic cruelty of industrial society, so maybe he arrived pre-calibrated for disaster. Then, in 1863, John Newlands proposes arranging chemical elements in repeating patterns. People mock him for this. Scientists ask if he wants to organize elements alphabetically instead. The man basically invents the periodic table and gets roasted like a middle schooler trying out for the talent show. By 1904, Baltimore catches on fire so catastrophically that fire trucks from multiple cities show up only to discover their hoses don't fit the hydrants. This is the Great Fire, a 30-hour inferno made possible by America's greatest enemy, universal adapter incompatibility. Your phone charger can relate. Segment 4, identity, inspiration, and the day a wooden boy became cinema royalty. In 1926, Carter G. Woodson launches Negro History Week. This is history about history itself, because Woodson realized that if you don't tell your own story, someone else will erase it. Then, in 1940, Pinocchio premieres in New York. It's the movie that taught generations of children two rules: don't lie and avoid carnivorous whales. The animation was groundbreaking. So groundbreaking, the ocean in that film looks more alive than I do on Zoom calls. Pinocchio wasn't an instant hit because Europe was, well, having issues. But eventually, it becomes iconic. If you don't feel emotional when You Wish Upon a Star plays, congratulations, you've legally declared yourself a robot. Segment 5, Music, Democracy, and Caribbean Fireworks. In 1964, the Beatles land in America. JFK Airport becomes a screaming mass of hormonal chaos. The airport staff probably thought a plane full of royalty had arrived, and technically, they weren't wrong. This moment launches the British invasion and the beginning of teenagers controlling the economy, culture, and possibly the planet. Then, in 1971, Swiss men finally decide women should vote. Yes, you heard that right. The country known for efficiency, precision, and luxury chocolate took until 1971 to ask, hey, should half our population participate in democracy? February 7th is the day Switzerland moves from medieval to modern. Also on February 7th, 1974, Grenada gains independence after internal conflict, political tension, and the kind of dramatic buildup you'd expect before a telenovela season finale. And the same day, Jay Dilla is born, one of the most influential producers in modern music. He made drum machines swing like a jazz band after 3 espressos. February 7th is basically the mixtape of historical dates. Segment 6, Dictators Fall, Astronauts Float, Europe Signs Paperwork, Space Dust Travels, and Climate Says, I'm Done. In 1984, Bruce McCandless performs the first untethered spacewalk. He floats hundreds of feet away from the shuttle like he's posing for the world's most confident Tinder profile. Nothing says swipe right like a guy who leaves Earth's orbit recreationally. 2 years later, 1986, Jean-Claude Duvalier flees Haiti, ending nearly 30 years of dictatorship. The people celebrate, statues fall, the whole nation exhale laughs at once. February 7th becomes the symbolic date for rebirth. In 1992, the Maastricht Treaty is signed. This is Europe's define the relationship talk, but with 12 nations sitting around a table saying, we're exclusive now. It creates EU citizenship and sets the path for the euro. Then, in 1999, NASA launches Stardust to collect comet dust. The mission eventually returned samples that rewrite our understanding of the early solar system, proving space rocks have been partying and trading materials like a celestial flea market. In 2009, Australia faces Black Saturday, one of the deadliest wildfire events in history. It changes national policy forever and reminds the world that climate change isn't coming, it's here, holding a flamethrower. And then there's the Super Bowl milestones on this date. Historic games, emotional wins, cardboard fans during a pandemic, and Tom Brady collecting rings like Pokemon badges. And looking ahead to February 7th, 2026, the Winter Olympics begin competitions with not one, but 2 cauldrons. Because the Olympics asked themselves, what if we were twice as lit? Literally. In conclusion, February 7th is the Swiss Army knife of historical dates. It gives you empire-shifting coronations, rebellious generals, raging fires, reversed rivers, scientific discoveries, dictators falling, astronauts floating, and 4 guys from Liverpool changing music forever. It's a date that keeps proving humans can be brilliant, reckless, resilient, and occasionally combustible. And every February 7th, history whispers, I can top that. Stay curious, stay skeptical, and I'll see you next time on Klepper's Corner Today in History.